Hello there, welcome to Wednesday's ITV News Meridian.
The headlines in the southeast this evening. The extension of a controversial scooter scheme in Canterbury is defended by the council. Critics say they're dangerous.
What you get is kids, sometimes two on them, down the pavements, through the park at full speed. They're a disaster.
Lorry queues on the M20 as the ferry stalemate continues. No P&O sailings from Dover and new government measures.
Also tonight, supporting the whole community as business owners in Thanet tell us of the value of the black pound.
And it's only just spring, but pet owners are being told to plan now to protect their animals on bonfire night. Good evening. Kent County Council has defended a decision to extend a controversial electric scooter hire scheme in Canterbury, despite opposition from Matthew Scott, the county's Police and Crime Commissioner.
The local authority insists the government-backed project is proving very popular, but there have been reports of antisocial driving and abandoned vehicles clogging up the city's pavements. Our reporter Kit Bradshaw has our story.
Using one of these to get about is illegal in most towns and cities. Canterbury is one of the few exceptions. Here the government's given e-scooters the green light, but only if they're rented from a specific company as part of a trial scheme. Its end date keeps moving further into the distance, recently extended until November. By then it'll have been running for 2 years.
They're very popular. There have been complaints about e-scooters in Canterbury, but almost invariably when we have looked into them, it's been established that they are scooters being used illegally.
According to the County Council, there are currently around 300 e-scooters available to hire in Canterbury city centre, with an average of 100 rented each day. Since the scheme began in November 2020, just 7 accidents have been reported. These hire scooters are speed limited, with extra GPS restrictions to stop you using them in parts of the city where they're not allowed. But what lots of people don't like is the lack of physical docking stations, with reports that many are simply left on the pavement.
There has been mentioned to me by several clients around potential trip hazards of e-scooters being left around the city, and that would cause a great concern for not only the older population but those with visual impairment, disability, mothers with prams, and of course the general populace.
These are just some of the privately owned e-scooters seized by Kent Police over recent months. They're illegal if ridden anywhere except on private land. But Matthew Scott, the Police and Crime Commissioner, feels the authorised hire scheme causes understandable confusion amongst the public over what is and isn't allowed. In this bustling city, the rental vehicles are liked by some.
We could walk like 10 minutes or just get 1 2-minute ride there and back.
Sometimes we get around with friends and we just kind of ride them around, have a bit of banter.
Fun,
yeah, they can be a lot of fun, yeah.
I think if you've got to get somewhere quick and you're brave enough to get on it, good luck. But I do think they should advise helmets.
I've seen them go through the Don John Cafe where people are sitting out having coffee, just weaving through the tables at full speed. They're a disaster.
I think it's a great mode of transportation and it looks quite fun. I'd do it for the lulz.
But I think they do need to make a speed limit on them. As far as, as I'm a little disabled, yes, they're a little bit of a risk on the pavement.
Officials say if the scheme ever becomes permanent, the operating company will build better infrastructure to store the scooters. For now, this pilot project continues at pace, dividing opinion along the way. Kit Bradshaw, ITV News, Canterbury.
And we heard in Kit's report there's some reaction from people living in Canterbury. But what about elsewhere in the southeast? Our Facebook page has these comments. Let's start with Charlie Bailey from Uckfield. Charlie says it's not the scooters that are dangerous, it's the person riding them. If you had to pass a test like you have to do with a car or a motorbike, it might lead to less accidents.
Glynis de Rokeby from Bexhill has been in touch to say they are dangerous for use on pavements. If allowed on roads, riders should wear crash helmets and must, she says, keep to speed limits and follow the highway code.
Sharon Maria Rhodes from Worthing says riders should be required to have tax insurance, bright coloured clothes and a road test. If not, they should be kept off our roads.
And Brenda Cherrett from Sussex says, sick of jumping out the way of bikes and scooters on pavements. Once you are senior school age and above, she says, you should use the roads. Thank you very much to everybody who has been in touch with those comments today.
Kent County Council has apologised after twin boys with autism were repeatedly restrained in special chairs at their school. The parents of Samuel and Jacob Montague say the boys suffered severe bruising as a result.
Well, the council says the chairs at 5 Acre Wood School in Maidstone are used for therapeutic reasons, but admits guidelines were not followed. Malcolm Shaw reports.
It was when Annie and Mark Montague first saw these photos that they realised how their twin sons, Samuel and Jacob, were being put into special restraint chairs at 5 Acre Wood School in Maidstone. The boys have severe autism.
We hadn't realised previously that what these chairs were. It was only when we studied the photographs did we, the horror set in of what had been going on all this time.
Annie and Mark took these photos showing the bruising the chairs caused.
They were deep tissue bruising, they were very serious injuries, and we got the police involved. But unfortunately, because the boys could not make a statement, the police could not proceed.
The Montagues took their boys out of the school in 2013 to teach them at home. It's only now, 9 years later, that Kent County Council has apologised to the family. It says the school only used the chairs because they'd been prescribed for therapeutic purposes, not to control the twins' behaviour. The council told us the use of these specialist chairs should always be agreed by a multidisciplinary team in consultation with service users, their families and advocates, and recorded within an individual's care or education plan. Regrettably, this did not happen in Samuel and Jacob's case. This was a breach of the school's policy and the DFES guidance. The boys are now 17. Here, Jacob is receiving special therapy to help improve his physical, emotional and cognitive development. The boys' parents say their prospects have improved beyond measure since they left the special school.
I spent years trusting the school about what their therapy. I trusted that they were doing the right things by our boys, but now there's a whole new range of therapies that are cutting edge, and it's just so much hope for autistic kids now.
Now Annie and Mark are campaigning for the law to be changed so restraint chairs aren't used on children like Samuel and Jacob. Malcolm Shaw, ITV News.
In other news, a Worthing couple have been sentenced for child cruelty after police found 2 young children in a filthy flat. A 28-year-old man and 26-year-old woman were each given 2-year suspended sentences. The children were taken into care, with police describing the conditions as the worst they've ever seen. A court was told the parents suffered from mental health issues.
Police are continuing to appeal for witnesses after 2 people were killed in a crash outside Cowfold near Haywards Heath. An 83-year-old man from Worthing and a 30-year-old woman from Elsford both died in the 3-vehicle collision on Monday. Officers are particularly keen to locate any dashcam footage.
A Met police officer from Kent has been found guilty of headbutting a cocktail waiter while breaking COVID rules. Westminster Magistrates Court heard that 28-year-old PC Luke Wilson from Gravesend had denied the assault. He was given a suspended 10-week sentence.
2 men who assaulted a woman during a botched robbery in Rochester have been jailed for 7 years between them. 20-year-old Batil Baluba and 32-year-old Jeffrey Michael attempted to rob the business in August last year. Baluba also admitted dealing cocaine.
The government plans to give new powers to refuse ferry operators who don't pay their employees the minimum wage.
It was one of a number of measures announced following the sacking of 800 P&O workers, with the company's ferries unable to set sail from Dover.
Well, it's having a knock-on effect on Kent's roads, with Operation Brock in place on the M20. James Dunham is above the motorway near Charing for us this evening. James, any idea when the road's going to get back to some normality?
I wish, Matt. Until P&O ferry services resume, this will continue to be a daily reality. Drivers squeezed first from 2 lanes into 1 with speed restrictions in place. It's a similar situation on the London-bound carriageway too, as lorries heading towards the port of Dover are effectively forced to queue for miles between Maidstone and Ashford to ensure the ferry terminal is not overwhelmed. Well, for business owners in Kent trying to navigate through and around Operation Brock now in its 9th day, it is a particular nightmare. And earlier I spoke to a removal company owner in Ashford who told me it's costing him thousands.
If we're travelling from Ashford to Rochester, it's a 45-minute journey. It's been taking us up to 3 hours. If you get a breakdown on the motorway with a vehicle, you're stuck there for as long as it takes for them to clear it. We're having to use the A road, and unfortunately the A road then is full, so it's just costing us so much time.
Ashford MP Damien Green raised the issue about transport disruption in the Commons today. We spoke to him afterwards.
Well, it's making life more difficult and a bit miserable at times when there's an accident in the part of the motorway that's down to 2 lanes. Obviously, that causes chaos. The only thing you can say in favour of Operation Brock is that it's better than Operation Stack, where they close the motorway altogether. So traffic is still flowing, but it's flowing more slowly. You get more traffic on A roads, people trying to avoid the motorway, and that causes stickiness as well. So it's a pretty miserable time.
And James, also in the Commons today, those announcements from the Transport Secretary about changes to the employment law.
Yes, and further condemnation of P&O ferries, but also an acknowledgement from Grant Shapps that the government will not be in a position to take legal action against the company. Instead, these 9 new measures designed to strengthen maritime law, including a ban on ferry operators who do not pay the minimum wage from entering British ports, also tougher penalties for companies who try to fire and rehire staff, as well as an encouragement to organisations to hire workers on British contracts. Of course, those P&O ferry workers were not. So let's hear now then from the Transport Secretary and get reaction to his statements from the RMT union.
This will send a clear message to the maritime industry. We will not allow this to happen again. Where new laws are needed, we will create them. Where legal loopholes are cynically exploited, we will close them. And where employment rights are too weak, we will strengthen them.
All the sound bites seem good. However, that doesn't detract away from the fact that 800 seafarers have just been sacked. The CEO of P&O Ferries has gone in front of the parliamentary group and said that he'd do the same again, and no actions have been taken against him, P&O or DP World.
DP World being P&O Ferries' parent company. Well, this is the situation today. There are fears it could only get worse, Matt, and imagine the Easter holidays are coming up in just a few weeks' time. Imagine what the M20 will look like.
OK, James, for the time being, thank you very much. Next tonight, Brighton and Hove Albion have managed to reduce their losses despite playing most of last season behind closed doors. The Seagulls still made a loss of £53 million up until May last year, but those figures don't include the £50 million transfer of Ben White to Arsenal.
Spitfires and Lancasters are set to return to this year's Battle of Britain Air Show in Kent. It will be the event's 7th year at head call, with the Red Arrows back after having to cancel a display last year because of bad weather.
A much-loved bird species has returned to Dover Castle thanks to a conservation project. The red-billed choughs were once extinct in Kent. Now the first chicks are expected to hatch at the custom-built aviary in May. The rare birds will be the first released into the wild in over 200 years.
And an endangered species of butterfly has had a good year in the southeast, with populations more than doubling. The Heath fritillary species have seen a 112% increase at monitored sites over the past decade, following long-term intensive conservation efforts in Kent and Essex. Brilliant.
Now you're watching ITV News in the Meridian region. Coming up on the programme.
Thinking of the community as a whole, why the black pound can be good for business.
And there's a change to something much colder heading our way overnight tonight thanks to this weather front. Find out all the details later in the show.
And you can find more on all our stories today, of course, on our website. itv.com/Meridian is the address. You can call us and you can follow us on Facebook and on Twitter.
The NHS will be forced to cancel or delay around 8 million operations each year by 2040 due to a lack of consultants, according to a professional body.
Anaesthetists are specialist doctors who give anaesthesia to patients for operations but are also responsible for pain management and intensive care. The Royal College of Anaesthetists is warning of limited training places and burnout at a time of record NHS waiting lists. Kevin Ashford has this report.
Kenneth Hatt's daughter Beverly has been waiting 3.5 years for surgery to remove cataracts from her eyes. Kenneth from Chatham in Kent says the delay is having a huge effect.
Her quality of life is, because her sight is now down to slight peripheral sighting and vision, she's unable to get about her own home safely, and my fears are that she will either fall over, burn herself or something like that because she is on her own. And she doesn't go out, and she hasn't been out for over 2 years because she can't see what she's going out for.
There's a large backlog of NHS patients waiting for surgery, and a lack of anaesthetists means those waiting lists could get even longer. A report from the Royal College found there's a shortage of almost 1,400 anaesthetists across the UK. That's preventing at least 1 million operations from taking place per year. The college says that figure is set to increase, as 1 in 4 consultant anaesthetists say they plan to leave the NHS in the next 5 years, with many blaming stress and burnout.
During the height of the pandemic, our college did a survey and we found 34% of respondents reported very poor mental health. This is a workforce that's then continued to deliver surgeries and also is highly committed to excellence in patient care. That's what drives and motivates us. So I would say yes, there is a certain amount of pressure there.
The COVID pandemic has been really hard on us. We've changed our work patterns, our lives have turned upside down. And I certainly know that some of my colleagues and friends are still really quite broken by it. And I think there is an element of burnout, but also the anaesthetic workforce is ageing. I'm among somewhere in the middle of my colleagues, and I'm 50, and there's certainly a large number who are in their late 50s and early 60s, and those people are going to be retiring at some point soon.
The anaesthetist governing body says urgent action is needed to tackle a problem that's already affecting patients.
We want the public to understand that the specialty has been calling for this for some time. We would like to hear from the government an announcement on increased training places, and we'd like them to understand that this is one of the reasons why they may experience a longer delay than they would like for their surgery, and certainly a longer delay than we would like to see them have to endure.
The government says the anaesthetist workforce is growing, with 330 more specialists last year than there were in 2020, and says there's been a 25% increase since 2010. The spokesperson added that training post numbers for next year had gone up, and they were also developing a way to recruit and retain more NHS staff. The Royal College of Anaesthetists says without adequate action, waiting lists for operations will only increase dramatically. Kevin Ashford, ITV News.
Now, the ITV Evening News continues after us, of course, with details about their programme tonight. Here's Mary Nightingale.
Coming up on the programme, the shocking maternity failings that cost the lives of 201 babies. Today's report found the litany of mistakes at the Shrewsbury and Telford Trust were repeated for years, with mothers being blamed for the deaths. We'll take you through what went wrong. Also ahead, Russian attacks continue near Kyiv despite a promise to scale back. The ABP's mother is cleared for release from prison. Now the Justice Secretary wants a review. And
don't let the sun go down on me.
A star-studded memorial for the cricketer Shane Warne. Do join me for that and more at 6:30.
Thank you, Mary. We will. Black-owned businesses are calling for more support and research into the value of the black pound, which is the money spent and earned by the black community.
Well, in many cases, it can be harder for black business people to access the funding and resources key to making a successful brand. Alongside that, many in the community feel existing retailers don't cater to them. Amrit Birder's report starts in Thanet.
Eli and Heather Thompson own a bar and restaurant in Margate in Kent. They say support for black businesses is important for equality.
I think it's important to support all local business. That's really important, because without the support, they will not survive. We will not survive. But more so, a black-owned business tends to get missed. People tend to walk by. They're not sure what to expect, and we need that support of people that are, walking by.
I think it's important that people start to acknowledge us as being part of the everyday makeup of the society that they walk up and down each day.
Research into the value of the black pound shows that by not catering to black and minority ethnic people, many established businesses are missing out on tapping into an extremely profitable market.
I walked into a store to buy some makeup as a young woman, and the store assistant said to me at that time, it was a big department store, that they only stocked normal colours. And at that point, I just could not believe the boldness, and I just couldn't believe that what had been said to me, in all honesty. You have to look at who are the decision makers, who are the creators, the innovators, and what I found through other research is that 97% of CEOs in the UK are from white backgrounds. Without diversity, you will always have a blind spot. And I think that's definitely the reason why this market has been overlooked.
Black and minority ethnic people contribute around £3 billion to the UK economy every single year. And yet many feel like big businesses on the high street aren't selling with them in mind. It's led to a push for people to buy from some of the 250,000 black-owned businesses in this country. Black Pound Day was founded in the wake of the Black Lives Matter movement. It encourages shoppers to buy from black-owned businesses on the first Saturday of the month in a show of solidarity with the local community.
Supporting a black business means you're supporting a black family. During this post-pandemic period, we are amongst the most affected. The more diversified your shopping experience is, the more nuanced your thinking is about supporting multiracial companies and understanding their experience when it comes to the products they create and the time and effort gets put into them. So you're supporting founders that are making the products. We're about 6% over here of the population in the UK. So 6% of each shelf should be products from black founders so that, you get that diversified experience.
The team behind Black Pound Day say progress has been made, but they believe more research should be carried out into the black pound to recognise its true value to our economy. Amrit Birdie, ITV News.
Now, it might not feel like it, but spring is in the air and the days are getting longer. So you might be forgiven for not giving much thought to chilly bonfire nights in November.
It's months away, but according to animal charities, though, now is the time to put in the groundwork to prepare nervous pets for fireworks.
Well, some continue to call for bans on private sales, with an increasing number of accounts of animals dying due to the distress they can cause. As Nick Smith reports, one dog owner in Medway dreads fireworks season.
While many of us look forward with excitement to a cracking bonfire night firework display, for thousands of pet owners across the region, late October and early November is a time which fills them with dread. Emily Cottis from Strood in Kent normally has to stay in on firework night, as she will spend most of the time comforting her Jack Russell Cross Charlie, who gets extremely distressed by the noise.
He really struggles. He's sound sensitive, so anything that's a loud bang, the high-pitched noises, he gets quite freaked. So he will wander around the house, he will cry, he will pace, he will pant. He gets really quite worked up, and he will just go around trying to find somewhere to hide. He'll go on the back of the sofa, he'll wedge himself into the tiniest little gap just to try and make himself feel safe.
Animal charity The Blue Cross says their vets see a huge rise in pets coming to their hospitals requiring medication during fireworks season. They offer advice on preparation techniques to acclimatise dogs to try and make them feel less uneasy. And their behaviour specialists say now is a good time to start.
For that preparation to really kick in, waiting until autumn or sort of closer to the time is too late for the effects to really be beneficial for your pet.
To start off, we have a really handy video. Start playing that regularly, sort of just in the background while you're doing normal things with your dog, and over time gradually start to increase that volume. Once it becomes more audible, once it becomes louder, give them the food treat that they can get really engaged in, pop it in their bed, somewhere where they feel safe, and allow them to listen to the noises. Over a period of the next few weeks and months, you can gradually increase that volume at a pace that suits them.
But some pets cannot be trained to cope with fireworks, and it can have tragic consequences. Sadie Johnson has over 30 rescue rabbits, which she's rehomed. Last November, she lost 4 in one night as they suffered heart attacks due to people letting off explosives in nearby gardens.
You can tell when a rabbit's scared, and they are frightened. Luckily, I hadn't lost any until last year. You're spending an awful lot of money on these explosives, these fireworks, and you're getting such a tiny display in your back garden. You've got neighbours so close to you. You could have neighbours with animals like me, and you're endangering people's and animals' lives.
Sadie wants fireworks limited to organised displays, and the public seems to be on her side. A recent YouGov survey saw 54% of respondents supporting a ban on private sale of fireworks. But for now, the law still allows personal purchases from mid-October until New Year's. So for countless pet owners, the best they can do is to be as prepared as possible. Nick Smith, ITV News.
Have to say, I hadn't even considered the possibility of getting your pets ready in advance.
Oh, I know, but I suppose it's something that you have to do,
Yeah,
don't you?
yeah.
Anyway, November is a long way off, but it feels very chilly at the moment,
Yes.
doesn't it? Here's Helen Roberts with your weather.
Feels like home, whatever the weather. Valent Boilers and Heat Pumps sponsors ITV Meridian Weather.
Hello, there is a change in weather type heading our way overnight tonight to something much colder, fairly breezy at times through the rest of the week, and there are some wintry showers in the forecast. So let's have a look at the reason why. Low pressure bringing this weather front, introducing much colder air behind it, a northerly airflow dragging very cold air all the way from the Arctic, and this large area of high pressure out to the west, keeping things fairly similar over the next few days. So let's have a closer look at what's happening through the rest of this evening and overnight. Increasingly thick cloud bringing outbreaks of rain, some of those on the heavy side and becoming quite persistent for some of us, especially so across eastern parts of Kent. Elsewhere, it will start to become drier through the early hours of the morning, and with temperatures taking quite a tumble, it will be noticeably chilly as you get out and about tomorrow morning. Still a few showers first thing across parts of Kent, and 1 or 2 lingering right the way through the day, but for most of us it will brighten up nicely. Plenty of sunshine on offer, but look at those temperatures, just 6 or 7 degrees. Combine that with the brisk north to northeasterly wind and it will feel much colder than it has done over recent days. The chilly theme then continues right the way through the rest of the week and into the weekend. Further showers are possible on Friday, and with those temperatures still on the low side, those showers still could be wintry at times. 1 or 2 showers possible on Saturday, but generally it's looking drier, and Sunday is looking dry for most, although often fairly cloudy.
Valent sponsors ITV Meridian Weather.
Did you pull your coat out today then? I did.
Big coat back out again.
Yeah, definitely. I'll see you later. I'll have your late update just after 10:30.
Mary Nightingale is next, of course, with the ITV Evening News. For now, though, from the team, thank you very much for watching. We'll see you tomorrow.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.